before I left for my trip, sort of stumbled into grace by finding a record by a family band, a couple of brothers that I've been looking for some time on this journey. After 12 years and 2,000 interviews, this country is just saturated with incredible regional music and the people that made that music. One of those places was Detroit, Michigan, where my next guest hails from. And many people know about, George Clinton and Aretha Franklin and so many great jazzers that came out of there, and obviously all the cats, the Funk Brothers and that and whatnot. And then all of a sudden you realize that there's an even deeper layer to it, this gut bucket, greasy, blue-eyed funk that was going on with my guest and his brother in many iterations. And they made a bunch of albums on Eastbound Records. My guest has continued on today and really made an incredible career for himself in many diversified settings. But he was there when the reality is that human rhythm, collective human rhythm, really healed a lot of people. And I can only hope that as we move forward, that people will recognize the lack of intimacy in electronic drum machines and, frankly, electronic music in general, even though that has its place, and return to the pulse and the dynamics and the tension and release of real human beings on the bandstand. Dallas Hodge, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hi, Jake. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's my honor, man. I wanted to start, I'd love you to talk a little bit about Ma and Pa Hodge, and most importantly, I have to believe that growing up you guys were self-taught musicians, and I kind of wanted you to talk about, how they exposed you to music, and also, sort of the vibe that they gave off as it related to just being your parents.
Well, when we lived on Fairview Street on the east side of Detroit, there used to be a bar at the corner where we got introduced to John Lee Hooker. He used to play there from time to time on the weekends.
Wow.
Ma was a friend of B.B. King's. Actually, his nickname for her was Chica, and she took us to see him one night at this blues club in Hamtramck, but we couldn't get in. My drummer and myself, we couldn't get in because we were underage. And Ma said, "Well, you guys stay right here. I'm gonna go inside and say hi to BB, and I'll be back out in a few minutes." And she went in and came back in about 10, 15 minutes, and then and that was that. And then as time had gone on, she was always, she loved bluegrass, she loved the blues, she loved rock and roll. My dad and her, they used to sing Lonesome Pine together.
Oh, are you kidding me? I knew this. Somehow I knew this.
And that was one of her favorites. She used to love the gospel stuff as well, which was always phenomenal. And, she would come out to my gigs, not so much Bob's, and do this. She would come out to my gigs, and she'd be standing out in the audience, and, one of her favorite songs that we used to play back then was a song by the Soul Brothers 6 called Some Kind of Wonderful.
Oh, sure.
And she would be out in the audience. There could be 250 people in the room. I remember we played this place called the Kegabrew up on Harper and Cadgeu near it. And that was with my Detroit All-Stars band, which had Drew Abbott on guitar from Seeger's band and Chris Campbell on bass from Seeger's band.
Oh, man. Jesus.
Norma Bell on saxophone. I mean, it was truly an all-star setup. And you could hear her singing Some Kind of Wonderful for the background parts in the back of the bar from the stage.
Wow.
That's how penetrating her voice was. And everybody loved her. I mean, everybody loved her. She'd come to the gig. Everybody would always, they would pay more attention to her than they would the rest of us.
I know, dude. What I love is that she recognized as a fanatic, and as in her own way as a artist, musician, how much the audience can affect the collective consciousness of the gig itself. That's what I try to do when I go to the gigs: is get the musicians out of their thinking mind into the spirit mind. Although being a woman, She, people were probably just much more interested in, they were interested in her more than any of the band.
Oh yeah. I mean, she and my brother both introduced me to Bonnie Raitt at one of the Ann Arbor Blues festivals.
Wow.
Which that relationship has continued to this day. And and she became known as, my dad, he was a journeyman steam fitter for Uniroyal for 30 plus years. He retired from the plant there in Detroit on the river. Ma became known as the rock and roll mom of Detroit. And at one point, they did a 2-page spread in the Detroit News with a picture of her and my brother sitting on the back porch, and my brother holding an acoustic guitar, and talked about, her and everything, or a lot of the things that had occurred over time. I mean, it was like, Ma was always the savior, so to speak, for the musicians who had less. If you needed a place to stay, we got a room. You need a meal, come by.
I love this. This is making my day.
$10, come by and see us. And that's the way it rolled the entire time. And God love her. I mean, she was just the best.
Dallas, I want to go back as best you can. I mean, obviously you weren't born there, but maybe I'm thinking that, there was a job offer for your dad. That's why you went. That's why he went north. But
he came north in 1940 something. He came up there on vacation. Him and a buddy of his from the mines down in Kentucky, and they got up there. And my dad decided he was going to stay, and his friend decided he was going to go back to Kentucky. So my dad got a job working at Kaiser Fraser Motor Car, and the guy who was the supervisor took a shine to him and got into discussion about steam and steam engines and all of that stuff. And my dad said, yeah, I used to take and run steam engines that, they cut logs with, so on and so forth. So he took a shine to my dad and took him under his wing, and he actually got him into pipe fitter school.
Wow.
Steam fitting, and my dad became a certified steam fitter thanks to his friend who took him under his wing.
This is what I wanted. I wanted you to just riff on this for the audience and the cats that are younger cats, especially. Not that it's fascinating. Just in the sense of let's just take bluegrass music for a minute, which I know Ma Hodge was a big fan. In the mid '60s, I just did a couple interviews with these incredible folk bluegrass musicians a month ago or so, and even what was revelatory to me was the fact that even in the folk aesthetic or the bluegrass, there was a formula you had to follow if you were considered to be an authentic folk musician. You had to go through the academy. You had to learn certain tunes.
Right.
And then by the mid '60s, now I mean again, you were a young boy, but all of a sudden, cats like Vassar Clements and other cats, these cats from rural parts of the country were coming out playing burning music. And at that time, because they were such exceptional musicians, ear-trained musicians, that was considered at that point as valid as anything that a curriculum would be like. And I just wanted you to talk about, just in general, the idea of like being able to form your own voice and your own sound and get up on the bandstand and really become a professional without having to go through this conformist academic thing that, I mean, I'm 45 and so many cats today, it's like, oh, I have to go to Berkeley and they have to graduate. And there were plenty of cats that went to these schools before. They didn't even graduate because there were so many gigs. And I just kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about being the kind of vibe that your mom or and both your parents gave off, being from a place that you really had to sing for your supper, but there was no one right way or wrong way to do it.
Yeah, it was. You just did it. I mean, my grandfather on my mom's side, he was a Baptist minister. He played 33 different instruments.
Oh my! What was his name?
Harm Hodge.
Harm Hodge.
Yeah, it was spelled the biblical way, Hiram. Actually, I'm sorry, take that back. Hiram Adkins, Adkins.
33 instruments?
Yes. I unfortunately never got to meet him because he passed away 3 months before I was born. But I heard lots of stories.
Can you share I mean, to me, this guy was playing maybe the pipe organ, or I mean, tell me a legendary.
He pretty much played all the stringed instruments, and also played some woodwinds, from what I understood.
Wow.
Like I said, I never got to meet him, and I, never did know everything about him. I do know that when they were alive and lived down in a little place called Denton, Kentucky, that Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs used to stop by on Sunday.
Oh no, God!
Oh yeah, they have a great big picking and grinning session.
This is what I'm talking about, man. It's all I care about is picking and grinning, man.
My grandmother, she was a good Southern cook, just like my mom was a good Southern cook. Nobody made better fried chicken.
Oh man.
But Graham, she'd make big pot of potatoes and fried chicken and fresh green beans picked out of the garden, and Lester and Earl would come over, and then every once in a while, Chet Atkins might stop by.
Oh, no way, dude.
Oh, yeah.
My God, dude.
It was like, it was down home, Kentucky style.
Hold on, how far was Chet coming from Nashville? Or, I mean, how far was that trip?
Back at that time, I'm not real sure. And I mean, there were stories of that she used to do that there, and she also used to do that at the house that they used to have up in Legan, Kentucky, which was where the mines were. And I think that was probably closer to where a lot of those guys were coming from at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, the stories that I heard were like, okay, just down home folk. We're going to go over to Grandma Atkins' place and have some good meals and do some picking and grinning and just have a good old day. And they'd sit out on the front porch for hours, I was told, and just sit there picking and grinning and singing away.
This is you're making my year, Dallas. Thank you so much, man. I mean, seriously, this is what my gut was telling me. I mean, just for granted, I mean, do you think that, please tell me that's still I mean, I feel like we're so disparate. The media at least makes it out that we are so divided and polarized. Do you think that even though we lived in a very different time technologically, radio and being an autodidact was absolutely the way to be? We were not, like, television had not infiltrated us as much. Do you think it just brought humanity closer together, having those kinds of experiences? To me, like, that's...
Oh, yeah. You had no interruptions with the TV and stuff. The only thing you could do back then was listen to the radio.
Right.
Listen to President Roosevelt doing his Sunday
right.
night hats.
Exactly.
That was it. And, I mean, I used to go down and stay at my grandmother's house every year for my summer vacation until I was 15, I think it was. I learned later on the reason why my parents took me down there to spend the summer vacation. I'll leave that to everybody's imagination. But I used to go down there, and Grams would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, stoke a fire in the coal stove in the kitchen. And actually, before she'd stoke the fire in the kitchen, she'd go out and get water out of the well and bring it into the house, and then she'd go out and slap the hog and milk the cow. And then come back in, and that's when I would wake up, and she'd go in and fire up the stove and cook breakfast. And it was, breakfast consisted of there used to be a bologna that she used to get all the time down, and it was called Kentucky Border. And it was basically a big chunk bologna,
right.
Sliced it however you want it. And she'd make that every morning, and some fried eggs that she picked up out of the hen house when she come back from the barn. So everything was always fresh.
Oh, this is the great...
She was on a little 7-acre plot, and she farmed pretty much the whole plot. I mean, I would go down there, and she had corn acres. I had some pictures. I don't even know where they are now. I had some pictures where the corn was about 8 feet tall, and I was 6 feet tall. So, I'd walk through the corn. She'd give me a big machete, and she'd keep your eyes open. I'd go, what am I looking for, Graham? She goes, you never know when you're going to run across a copperhead or a black snake.
Oh, boy, that's really settling in. I mean, that would make me feel a little bit paralyzed right there.
Oh, yeah. And she had indoor plumbing, but it used to freeze every winter and break, and it wouldn't get fixed until my dad came down there to either bring me down there or bring me home, and he'd do the repairs on it. And when it was broke, she'd just go out to the well house, stick in a 5-gallon bucket that had holes in the bottom of it, believe it or not, so she'd have enough strength to pull it up out of there and then pour it into another bucket to take into the house. And that was how we did everything. Used to take a bath in a big round tin horse trough in the front yard with the water that came off of the roof.
That's what Elvin Bishop told me that. I think he had like 8 kids in his family, and he was the last one to get in, too. Like, oh, I'm sorry, what was your grandma's name?
Virgie Adkins.
So she basically, in the most inspiring way, once your granddad passed, she just picked up the slack and did everything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she was the farmer boy. She did, and she killed some not rattlesnakes, but down there they're more copperheads and black snakes.
Mm-hmm.
But she killed a few of them in her time. I never forgot the story. One time she went out to the barn. She had a big tobacco barn because she had a base where she rented out to this guy for a 700-pound tobacco base. And when they cut the tobacco, they would bring it into the garage to let it, cure. And she went out there one day, and she always carried a machete when she went to the barn or anywhere in the fields, just to be safe.
Sure.
She went out there one day, and all of a sudden this black snake just rolled down out of the top of the barn, hanging from its tail,
Whoa.
right at her face. And she said to me, she goes, "Oh, no, you don't." Bam. And his head ended up in one place and the body in another.
The reflexes on her, amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to be naive here. Did you and your bro ever come across this cat Washboard Willie in Detroit?
The name sounds really familiar.
James Jamerson used to, when he wasn't at Motown, he used to, Washboard Willie was he played washboard, obviously, and would go, and he played with cats like Hooker, but like Jamerson would go out and play upright bass with him. He was his favorite musician in Detroit, and I'm just trying to get this idea, like, my mom's from Saginaw, and, I've never seen Detroit in necessarily a healthy state, but the cats that I've talked to, Wendell Harrison, so many jazzers, there was like department store lofts in Detroit, and you had soul jazz going on in all these different clubs and blues.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out like how much like crossover or integration maybe is the better word. How much exposure outside of the Hooker at the blues? I mean, did you ever stumble across a Sanctified Church? I mean, how much did you get into that black scene?
I used to play guitar at a gospel church on Kercheval.
Oh my God!
That my neighbors down the street turned me on to a black family, the Terrys, and they invited me to come to church with them. So we had a piano player, a percussion bongo player, a bass player, and myself playing guitar.
This is unbelievable. How old were you?
12.
12 years old.
Yeah, I just had started to play.
Oh
that was it. And so my mom and dad, they used to ask me, you having fun? I go, oh yeah, it's a good time. We had there was a black female gospel group called 10 Tons of Fun? 3 big, huge women.
Was it 2 tons of fun or 10 tons of fun?
It could have been 2 tons. I just remember it was 3 huge black ladies that were, at my age, they were 3 times the size of me. And they would come in and every once in a while they'd come through and go up on by the where the preacher stands. And we had a great big old upright piano over against one wall, and that's where we all sat. And then there was a bunch of chairs out in front, some pews, but a lot of chairs. And I tell you, these women would come in, and they would do it. And they would make everybody in the church, they would be up on their feet, and the church would be vibrating.
This is what I want to hear about, dude, because this is the only way that humanity is going to get saved is through rhythm. And through, I mean, there was no trap drummer. You just had bongos and
Just bongos. That was it. And I didn't even really know how to play guitar yet. I was still fumbling around trying to figure out, okay, how do I play this chord? And I was surprised that they invited me and they let me stay there.
Well, they saw that you had, I mean, that feeling, that even though you were just trying to figure out the apparatus, I mean, can you talk about the healing quality? Was that when you realized that music could be a healing force? Like when you would walk out of there and say, I don't know what I just experienced, but I know I could feel and I know it was real.
I think that it's because of my mom and dad and the history in our family. That was kind of...
It was already built in, yeah.
It was kind of like already built in. And just going to the church that way just fulfilled something else that, I was not really a church-going person. I believe in a higher power. I wouldn't say that I'm any particular religion, but I do believe that there's something or someone, somebody up there that does steer us in a good direction and saves our tails from time to time.
Absolutely.
And, you might call him God, you might call him, Buddha, or whatever. Every religion has a monarch. And it was just always, to me, I come out of that church and I was feeling like $1 million. And enjoyed my time there for the years that I played there. I think I played there for just a couple of years, and then I started getting more serious about it, and then started having a band and doing gigs, and then it just went on its own and on its way.
Your brother, would you say that? What kind of age difference do you guys have?
Oh, it is a big age difference. He's 9 years my senior.
Okay, so when you were going back for summer vacation in Kentucky, he was already shedding on the bandstand in Detroit, or what was he up to at that time?
No, he was driving cars and stuff, and had a job at working at a loan company.
No, this is unbelievable.
Was playing at a bar on the east side. His first band was called the Lawmen, and it was him and a drummer named Tyrone Lazuka, a bass player named Dennis Self. And who was the other guitar player? Ken Nainer, I think, who went on.
The Lawmen.
The Lawmen. And they used to have brown type short jackets, and they wore skinny black ties, white shirts. They all had matching uniforms. And he played at East Warren Lanes for years before he started breaking into doing concert stuff. I mean, he was there probably a solid 4 or 5 years, and people used to come and see him all the time. I mean, it was a bowling alley, and they sold some kind of food like hot dogs and whatever. But he made it so that the bar actually started having more clientele and people spending more money because of what he did.
Now explain, this is so invigorating. First of all, it was called East Side Lanes. What was it called?
East Warren Lanes. On Warren Avenue, 2 blocks east of Cadieux Road, which we lived on Cadieux.
And what was he? I've listened to the albums. Do you think that the live experience, just sticking with your brother for a minute, was it really ever captured on record, or was the live experience completely over the top?
A lot of it was caught on record. I mean, if you listen to all of his albums from the beginning forward, you'll see the subtle changes in each recording of the feel, of the fluid, of the meaning, of the context, and it grew and grew as he got older and older.
Can you talk about how when did he basically, like, you were in the Sanctified Church, did you wind up sort of wanting to carve your own path, or did he say, "Hey, Dallas, let's get you some experience, be in my band"? How did like, to me, in so many ways, like, whether it's the Heath brothers or all these different families that had multiple people that came from them. I mean, there was tough love, but it was also like a farm system. And I just wonder, did you try to sort of carve your own path, or?
Well, because there was such an age difference, we were in two different lands at the same time.
That's right.
He was doing the cover stuff when he started at East Warren Lanes, but he was also starting to write songs at that time and would incorporate, every once in a while, he'd incorporate and put one of them in the set, or a couple of them during the night, and that was it. And then he released a couple of records when he was 18, 19 years old on Sound Records. They used to be up near St. Clair.
Really? Wait, was that Sound Record? That was in Michigan?
Yes. Yeah, they had a red and silver label.
Oh, my God. Wow.
And that's where he first started recording. I remember we used to go up there from time to time, and that was back when they did everything on acetate.
Absolutely.
It was just, it gets real hissy after about 20 plays, so... But, he was doing that, and then he was writing more and more. He had a song that he did that got a lot of airplay called Rosanna. And, but we were in different directions at that time. He was starting to do the original stuff and coming up with that. I, on the other hand, started out doing all the Hendrix and Cream and, all of that stuff. I had a power trio for a while, which I did for... I don't know, I think it was a year or two, and then I got tired of the trio saying it's just too loud and had to play way too much.
Wait a minute. What year was that? So you were born in 54. When did that power trio come? 67, something like that?
Yeah, 66, 67. I got my first guitar March 19th, 1966. My mom got me up into Jazz Master. Bob got his first guitar, was an Epiphone, was in 1961, I think. And then he got his first Stratocaster in 1964.
Did you ever go to the Bluebird Inn? This is what I want to get at. Elvin Jones, Donald Byrd, Kenny Burrell, Pepper Adams, Tommy Flanagan, the list goes. There were so many jazz cats. And I'm not saying that you ever carved out you didn't go to New York and you weren't a bebopper. What was your exposure to that bastion of jazz in Detroit?
There was a keyboard player that used to have a gig downtown.
At the Nakarama Club or something?
At the hotel. It was in the basement of a hotel. John Sinclair had a nightclub down in the basement called the Rainbow Room.
Wow.
And keyboard player, geez, I wish I could remember his name. He was the first keyboard player I ever saw that played bass with left hand and Hammond. And it was just him and a drummer. And once in a while, he'd have either a guest guitar player or a saxophone player come in and play.
He was playing. Was he playing B3 or piano?
B3. His name was Lyman Woodard.
Dude, this is unreal. Dude. So, because that was the thing, man. I saw that, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but
sure.
You're like playing in a band with these. I've been looking for these cats, the Van Winkles. Well, because that group was just doing, because there was a very trendy time where it was just, you'd play organ, drums. When you talked about your brother in the bowling alley, that I just flashed on that. That was very trendy back at a certain period of time where you had these just organ drum duos.
Well, that's back, it was Teagarden and Van Winkle came to Detroit. I think it was in the late 60s, because I remember we did a show with them up at this big horse farm. And
oh, my God.
That's when they came in, and that was when they finally put out the big hit for them in that time frame was God Love Rock and Roll. Which, when Skip passed away, I ended up learning that song because Teagarden was at the ceremony of life for him, and his son came in here in L.A. And
you played that.
The band learned the song, and we played it exactly the way Skip recorded it.
They're looking. I can feel I can feel Skip's presence here. So ultimately, you Lyman Woodyard, you saw down there.
Right.
We
used to go hit some clubs around town. The Driftwood and a couple other clubs. I went to a couple of jazz clubs, but jazz was never really my cup of tea.
Can you talk about what that word means? We could meet, Dallas and I could walk down the street in L.A. and ask people 20 different people what their definition of jazz is. We get 20 different answers. And at that time, it was still definitely a popular American music. But I just wanted you to talk about what that meant to you and ultimately, like, what you were trying to get across. Did you think it was maybe too snobbish, or, I mean, what was it about?
No, I never thought that. Back then, jazz to me there were two different modes of jazz. There was what I would call the sweet jazz,
Yep.
which would be the stuff like Mahalia Jackson or
Wow.
somebody like that would do. And then there was the outside jazz, which is the stuff that was more improvised than anything else. And cats just went wherever they wanted to go. It didn't matter. Guitar player take them one place, keyboard player take them to another place. Drummer and a bass player might take them to a whole different room.
That's right. Exactly
so
right.
It was very eclectic, I guess is the correct word for it. But then you had the simple jazz, Kenny Burrell or even Cornell Dupree for that matter. I mean,
When did you first see him play? I'm curious because I know you went on. I think you either went on tour with him with Bonnie. I just was blown away by that.
Who's that?
Cornell.
Oh yeah, Cornell. We had the Hodge Brothers band down here in L.A., which consisted of my brother, myself, Skip Van Winkle on organ and pedals, Larry Zach on drums, who used to work with Jackson Brown and several others.
That's the nastiest band. Is there any live recordings of that band?
There's a couple. There used to be a bunch of them, and the sound engineer that we had at that time, Joe, he passed away from a heart attack, and we didn't know about it. And it wasn't until a couple of years later, and we learned that his mom had thrown everything out because she didn't know what it was. And fortunately, we had some tapes of it, but not a lot. When I didn't have as many as what Fish did, and then when Fish's house burnt down when he lived in Panorama City, all those tapes died. So there's not very much of it, but we had Marty Greb on keys and saxophone.
Rest in peace, a legend. Yep.
Yes, one of the originating founders of the Buckingham.
That's right.
A lot of people didn't know.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
And then David Woodford on saxophone. He would. Marty sang, played organ, played sax. Woody sang, played keyboard, and he sang and sax. And then at one point in the very beginning with the Hodge Brothers, Freebo played bass with us, but that didn't last long. And it just got to be with Skip playing the pedals. And I tell you what, everybody used to just be amazed at the band. I mean, Bonnie would come in. Oh shit, man!
What was the venue that you had the gig at?
We had a gig for about a year and a half down in a place called O'Mahony's.
Wow. Dude, that is... Hold on. And Skip, that to me... You didn't even have a bass player, right?
We had Skip Van Winkle. We didn't need a bass player.
Right, he was kicking pedals, so he's playing left-hand bass. That's unbelievable.
I gave him the handle after many years later. It was... I would introduce him on stage as Skip Van Winkle and Seymour Feet.
Dallas Hodge, man.
He always wore his silver self-spray painted boots. So, and he had two fennel lights on the bottom of the organ on the legs.
Right.
That shone right on the bass pedals. So they would shine on that silver paint. And I just said, Seymour Pete, I like that. He even got to the point of saying, "Well, Dallas, that ain't too bad."
Where was he originally from?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh my God, this is just. Did you ever go to the 20 Grand?
I was there once, I think, maybe twice.
Right, Baker's Keyboard Lounge. I'm just throwing out some of the bigger
Baker's not Driftwood. Baker's was the other jazz joint in town.
Right.
That's where all the big dogs came.
Yeah,
through.
Freddie Hubbard would come through. All those cats. Yeah.
All the big guys. That was to them as the Easttown Ballroom was to all the rockers.
Well, talk about the East. I've never heard of that. So because I've interviewed Nugent. Nugent was Joe Podorczyk. Does that name ring a bell?
Yep.
So Nugent was on the bandstand with Bo Diddley. This is pre-Amboy Dukes, but East Side Ballroom. Take it away. Explain the vibe, because it wasn't like you guys were having, there was just, all music was just sort of, it was before, you could walk into a Woolworths or a Five and Dime, and, there'd be a Blackwood Brothers, followed by, Gary Bartz, be jazz into folk into everything. There was, we weren't separated by labels. Labels had not,
No, and the Easttown Ballroom,
yeah.
Bob Garris, who owned the thing, it was a converted theater. They had left the seating upstairs on the upper level, and they took all the seats down on the lower level. And they would bring in, Bob Garris was very good about bringing in all kinds of different talent. He would have maybe Bo Diddley there. He would have Procol Harum there. He had Elton John there. As a matter of fact, Elton John's first tour to America, we opened for him with the Catfish Band.
No way.
2 days in a row. He was there one day. Lee Michaels was there the other day.
Another badass, yeah. Unbelievable.
And we opened and recorded the live Catfish album there.
Oh, okay. So I was wondering about the genesis of the live Fish out. That was recorded there, opening for
one night for Elton John and one night for Lee Michaels.
Explain in your had you actually before that band, how much did you have your own band before that? Did you have the?
Oh yeah. I had several bands before that. I had a band called Salvage, which started out as a trio and then went to a quartet. Then I had a band called Deluxe that went from a quintet to a 10-piece band. And it was, I think, well after Deluxe was when we finally, Fish had the band, the Catfish Band, which got signed to Epic Records in the beginning. And at one point in time, a couple of the guys in the band, actually 3 of the guys in the band, left the band. So Bob said to me, he goes, "You want to bring your guys in?" I said, "Sure, we'll do that." And then we did that, and we had, Ken Cooper from Epic Records came out to see us play at Something Different up on 12 Mile and Northwestern. And I think it's Birmingham area. I forget now. But anyway, he came, and our manager at the time, Jim Castley, who managed Teagardner Van Winkle in the beginning, got him just really loaded. I mean, he'd have bought anything that night.
Moonshine, yeah, I dig, yeah.
So he ended up going back to New York, and they ended up saying, "Okay, we'll give you a deal, but here's the deal: we want the original guys back in the band." And that was my first experience, to be honest with you, that there's a difference between friendship and business. And my brother had to make, and I know it was a tough decision, and I never held it against him. I know some people would have, being a brother, but that was not the way we were raised.
Explain. I want you to. This is so important for my daughters. This is really amazing. So, first of all, why did those guys even want to come back? I thought they left on their own accord, but I guess.
Well, they left off because there was a brouhaha. The brouhaha was this: when they went to New York, they played the Fillmore East several times, and a couple other joints. I think the Lone Star.
Yeah.
And when they started making noise in the press, they would always mention the Catfish Band with Bob Hodge. Then it became Catfish Bob Hodge. And they didn't really like that idea because he was being singled out as the front guy, which was his job.
He's the front man. I don't know what he was just getting, he was getting too much of the spotlight, they thought?
He was getting too much of the attention in their eyes.
Yeah.
And so they said, you got to tell him that stop this Catfish Bob Hodge shit. And it was just like, you're making a hard call here. And so they said, well, okay, we quit. So he put the band together. I had brought in my guys, Dennis Kramer on bass, Jim Deemers on drums, and myself. And we still had Harry Phillips on piano and organ. And that's what we did the live album with, actually, was that lineup. It was shortly after that when Epic Records, basically at that point they had changed managers and had a guy in New York. I forget his name off the top of my head. Really nice guy. But he was the one that said the record company wanted to have the original guy. So he came back to Bob. Bob came to us. He goes, look. He goes, this is what management wants me to do. It's not my call per se, but it's what they want to do. And I knew he was going to go somewhere. To this day, I'm surprised he's not been even nominated into the...
Dude, the man is... I mean, this is... But it's about excavating this gold, man, because it's gold. Your family's gold.
Well, it amazes me that to this date he's never been nominated to be into the Michigan Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, he was a stalwart back at the time. Bob Seger used to open for us.
I know, dude. I could feel this. I knew, but it's always that. There's always somebody before. Not that this is an excuse, but everybody thinks that Sly Stone and James Brown invented funk music. In the West Coast, there was a guy named Johnny Talbot who's still alive, and he had a band called Johnny Talbot and the Thangs, 1963. James Brown and the Flames didn't come around for a year or two later. And yet
stop and think about the guy from well, yeah, he was a kid at the time. He died. Baby Hughes and Baby Louie. Baby Hughes.
Oh, baby. I mean, come on. That's Catfish. That's right there with you.
That's in my wheelhouse, man. And so Bob came to us and he goes, look, I got to bring the guys back. That's what the record company and the management want. And I went, okay. He goes, I'm going to give you all $500 a piece for all what you've done.
It's good dough at the time, yeah.
$500 was a lot of money.
That's like a couple grand, easy, yeah.
That ended up giving me the money to buy my first ever guitar that I bought myself, which I still have to this day, my 68 Les Paul.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
I just so he cuts the record, but then I walk into my record store in Tucson last week, and I find this insane Catfish Hodge record with Dallas Hodge. Came out in '72 on Eastbound. So how did that was a quick turnaround? I mean,
that was the Boogeyman Gonna Get Your album.
Oh my! So that was he did that for the record company. Did any of those songs get radio play on that one-off record that he did?
The Boogeyman, it was being played on CKLW because what we did, and Armin Palladium, the record company president, owner, he made a smart call. The guy who was doing the engineering for us in Toronto, because we recorded up there.
Lee DiCarlo?
Yes, Lee DiCarlo and Ken... I'll think of it when you hang up the phone. We set it up, or they set it up. I had nothing to do with it. They set it up that he was co-writer on several of the tunes. That way we could break through the old issue of having Canadian content. Because CKLW had a hard time playing you if you didn't have Canadian content. Bob Seger got through that, and then he wrote that song Rosalie, which she wasn't real happy about it because it basically called her out on the carpet for being what she was and who she was.
Right.
And he actually pissed her off with it, but it came to be a big hit. So we had Boogeyman, the Boogeyman Gonna Get You on the radio. I remember the first time I heard it was riding down the street in the car. It didn't have no FM back then. It had AM station, and all of a sudden on CKLW, here comes the Catfish Hodge Band, Boogeyman Gonna Get You, and I just shit my pants.
Dude, honestly, that this is the. So I want to be clear. That was a station, a bleed through station from Toronto or Canada coming through.
They were in Windsor, Ontario, and they were the largest AM broadcasting station within 400 miles.
Oh my God!
They reached all the way down to Kentucky. They had 50,000 watts of broadcast power.
And so, because DiCarlo was like co-writer, you were able to.
It was Kenny, the engineer, who they put on as co-writer. But that's how we got it on to CKLW.
Exactly. I can't believe the feeling you must have had when you heard that song. on radio.
It's like any 16-year-old kid, man. You hear yourself on the radio, and it's on the most powerful station in town. Yeah, buddy. I'm sure that's the same way Elvis felt when he heard it.
I know, but it was just so much more innocent because you had regional radio and like it wasn't all this syndicated playing the same damn thing for a year. I mean, it's just like it was yeah.
Go ahead.
No, there was no. The bean counters had not gotten involved. I mean, it was just so sort of, and the music was so ridiculously good.
Well, that's when you really had pay-to-play money happening.
Explain that.
Well, if you wanted your record on the radio, you paid the radio station to get it on there. That's just what it was, pay-to-play. Whole of it was, though, at the same time, that gave a lot of artists a new chance to be able to get on. The other part of it was, it's like you're saying, we didn't have all that syndication stuff back then. So the radio stations, even the AM jocks, were free to play what they felt was good. Now, they couldn't do a ton of it. They had to stay within the top 10, top 15 format that the station had going. But they could throw in the other stuff, and nobody gave them a hard time about it. And then, voila, came FM radio and Detroit WABX and WKNR and what was the other one? I forget now. They were the ones who came in totally free form, and they played whoever they wanted. And they would play some of the charting people because that was part of the deal. They played what they called good music.
I freaking love, because you would have everything from Mahavishnu Orchestra into Stravinsky into the Serendipity Singers into the Hodge Band. I mean, it was insane the kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, it was free spin. I mean, it was like I was talking to one of the ABX guys who's retired now, who was doing shows for a while, even when he left Detroit, and it was once. What's the big conglomerate? There's three of them that own all the radio stations.
The Cumulus, what I'm
Clear
Channel, yeah.
Clear Channel.
Yeah.
And he used to do the stuff from his house in Florida. And I said, Artie, what do you do? He goes, they send me the set list, the song list. I announce the songs. I do the commercials, and then I send it back to him.
Robot. Total robot.
Do you get to pick any songs? He goes, oh, no, that's not allowed no more.
Yeah. And that's I don't even want to get on my soapbox right now, but as a journalist, as a rogue journalist, it really, there's a few other, we're going to do set 2, Dallas, because we've just barely scratched. I'm having such a ball, but I have to ask you about the Chessmate, the Living End, the Masonic Temple. I mean, you weren't a folkie per se, but were you?
Played all of them.
Because I have this clip. I have this Gordon Lightfoot interview that I did, and he was talking about going to see at the Masonic Temple Oscar Peterson with Ray Brown. It's unbelievable.
Back then, you had Ford Auditorium, you had Masonic Temple. You had the Chessmate Lounge, which was the fun bar place to go.
Right.
The other two venues were more like concert venues, but back then again it was one of those things. Music was wildly. I'm going to use the word free, not from a cost standpoint,
right,
but from a performance standpoint. Like I said, Seeger used to open up for us. I opened up for. Gosh, I can't tell you who all the bands I opened for. Fleetwood Mac, Purple,
Deep Purple, Grand Funk Railroad, or something.
Oh yeah. I mean all those guys. Matter of fact, I have a story about Grand Funk.
Why don't you share that? I'd love to hear it.
Well, remember I said earlier Ma used to come and sing in some kind of wonderful with us.
Oh yeah.
So we had revamped the tune, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Having guitar players as solo people and, so on and so forth. We redid it somewhat. It still had its core, and it still had its harmonies and everything like that. Well, Grand Funk was supposed to play one night at Cobo Hall, and Mark got sick. So they canceled the show for the night. And the guys came by. We just happened to be playing that night at a little hole-in-the-wall joint on the east side that everybody and the mother came to it. There was 2 clubs on the east side at that time that people like Rod Stewart and everybody would show up. One was called Sexy Sadie's down on Mack and Alter.
Oh, my God, this is great.
The other one was called the Red Carpet Lounge, which was right next door to the Alger Theater at Warren and Outer Drive.
Oh, my God.
Okay? So we're in there playing one night, and Mark and the guys in the band, they come walking in. And everybody looks at me. You know who it is? Yeah, I know who it is. Ain't no big deal to me.
Yeah, right. You got it.
You know, so we did some kind of wonderful. I know this was not coincidence. 6 weeks later, Grand Funk released it and made it another white boy hit.
Oh, my God.
And boy, did that not sit in my crow very well.
There are no coincidences in life, period.
No. And it was just like, in one sense, I mean, if you would have heard our version and you would have heard their version, you would have been going, well, who's who? That's how close it was. And it was like, you know, the whole band, when it came out, it was like, are you kidding me? I said, well, hey, you know, we didn't write the song. We just rearranged it. And anybody can rearrange anybody's song. I did that with Love Me Do. So it's like, you know.
And that was so typical of your generation, too. I mean, I remember George Porter from the Meters telling me, you know, the Meters would take a Stephen Stills tune and turn it upside down and inside out, change it.
Oh, man, take me down to Nolans, man.
Yeah, man, you know, and like in some ways, yeah, you know what, as a young cat, it would sit in my you know, it wouldn't sit well with me either. But then, I don't know, just looking at it from sort of objectively, it's just what a high honor in some ways, you know, where, you know.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, you know, they took somebody else's song and they redid it, but, you know, I never heard any of those guys who did that, you know, whether it was the Meters or the Neville Brothers or anybody else for that matter. I've never heard anybody do redos and make them sound bad.
That's right.
You know,
yeah.
They always come out sounding good. It may not have the same groove, might have a different groove, might have a second line groove as opposed to a ballad.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the songs never sounded bad. You know, and for that I took it as a respect. That's what I took it as. I never took it as being, you know, someone, you know, cheating on it or whatever. I had a band from Germany after I was traveling with Canned Heat for the time I was with them. They sent me an email. Can we do your song Bad Trouble? I sent them an email back. I said, I'm flattered. I said, please do. You can do any of my songs that you wish, however you wish to do them. And they actually ended up doing it almost identical to the way I wrote the song and did a really good job. And I got to tell you, foreign players, it's difficult for them to find what I call the groove that we find here.
Interesting. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, if you think of Kool and the Gang, you think of Dr. John, you think of
Yeah,
Bonnie.
I dig, bro. I dig. I dig. Yeah.
There's a sound that we produce that they try to mimic.
They can't do it because there's nothing like the Gulf Coast and New Orleans and all the history of this country too. You know.
I was going over there for a while after Canned Heat, and was playing with this guitar player named Andy Eggert. Good guitar player, harmonica player. Had a drummer, Hani, who was from Egypt, from Cairo.
Wow.
And a German bass player. And you could come and watch the Andy Eggert band play, and they played one way. And as soon as I walked on the stage, they played a totally different way. And people would say to me and go, how do you do that? You seem to have the ability to take bands and just rearrange them automatically the way you want to go and never have to say nothing. I said, you know, I don't know what it is. I can't tell you. I don't instruct people very much. I give them, as I call, roadmaps.
That's right.
We're going to go this direction, and how you feel it, okay. If what you do I don't like, I might say something. If it's okay, then I ain't going to say nothing. Other than it sounds good.
Right. You just a couple signposts here and there, you know?
Yeah, I'll tell you, here's the mile marker 1, and down there is 34. So we're going to wig and wag all the way through until we get to 34. And it was amazing because people would come up to me. I don't know how you do it, man. I mean, we love Andy. Don't get me wrong, but what you bring to the stage is just different. I go, it's because it's from my heart and my soul, and I'm from home. And that's the only thing that I can tell you. It would be like me trying to mimic greats like the Rolling Stones.
Right.
I can't mimic that. I can play it, but I can't mimic that. And so it was like, for me, it's not to dose the players at all, because they're all really good players. I mean, I had another band that I worked with over there that was out of Belgium, and it was the same thing. The organ player was great. Everybody in the band was great. But when they went on the stage, they sing the song's structure to the way they can sing it. And I don't know sometimes if that's how they feel it or that's just how they can sing it.
This is fascinating. No, I think you're nailing it. You cannot replace the fact that we have both feet on the ground in this bastion of where the music was created. And if you're trying to mimic it, that's all you're going to be able to do. It's never going to necessarily feel that way,
Well, that's why guys like, I always used to love it in the young days. The girls always went bananas for anybody with a British accent.
Right.
I mean, they just went batshit crazy.
Oh, crazy.
And it was like, but you go to Europe, they did the same thing about the Americans. So it was like, tit for tat. And it was just like, that's why I was watching the thing the other day about,
you'll remember it when we hang up.
Mr. Piano King.
Mr. Piano? Was Nat King Cole or?
No, Great Balls of Fire. No,
Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lee Lewis.
No.
Oh, Little Richard.
Little Richard.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
And Mick Jagger's made a comment. I was just like going. He goes, "We were awed by him."
Yeah.
Well, he was just as awed by them as they were him. And he, and it's like they even admitted to it. They took a lot of what he did and structured some of their songs to that style. And they were one of the few bands that were able, I think, and to this day, British bands who could capture that magic.
Dallas, I got to go pick up my younger daughter right now. Do you think we could do set 2 tomorrow at the same time?
Should be able to. Just give me a yodel.
All right. Yeah, it's such an honor, and we're going to get the Hodge family in. Listen, my brother and I was born in 1978. My brother and I...
You're a puppy.
Right, but all I'm saying is that I'm making it one of my goals to get your brother into the Detroit Music Hall of Fame. That's absolutely a priority for me.
I said last year when they were doing the nominations and stuff, I was on Facebook and I put a big thing up there. I'm not saying this because I don't necessarily know or feel that I deserve a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame there. I mean, I was there for many, many years until I left, and I left for my own reasons, and it was basically from the weather.
Absolutely.
Because I had a great band there. All my bands were always good. I mean, and I always tried to... I never went looking for the hottest players. Now, that may sound strange.
No, you were looking for the team, man. You got to put a team together.
I was looking for the guys who, A, number one, most important, I can get along with.
Right.
B, that can play well enough that if I need to help teach them a part or a style, they will listen to me and not be upset by it. And I had my guitar player that I moved to California with me. He's still up in Santa Cruz, George Lindbergh. We were talking one time after the fact, after I left up there to come down south. He goes, you know what people called you, don't you? And I said, no, they all called you the Godfather. And I said, what are you talking about? Oh no, always called you the legend. And I said, look, I always tell people this. The word legend is saved for those who have passed.
Wow,
That's the way I look at it.
interesting. That's so. The Godfather meaning not overly verbal, not micromanaging, but when but
Well, it was just, they said you had legendary status. I wasn't the Godfather. They said you had
you
legendary
legendary.
status.
But no, I'm okay with in the present moment being alive, being called a legend. People call me that too, man.
Well, it was funny because I said to George, I said, what are you talking about? He goes, Dallas, everybody in Detroit wanted to play in your band. I said, get out of town. He goes, no, man. He goes, they all wanted to play in your band. And it's funny because he is the opposite style guitar player than I am. He's more of the Aerosmith kind of guy, Led Zeppelin kind of guy.
Right. Hard, right.
I got that Freddie King, B.B. King blues tinge. That's where I'm at. And it was like when he says, when you asked me to come play in the band, he goes, you don't know how excited I was. I said, you're kidding me. He goes, no. He goes, you have a reputation, man. You are the guy.
Well, we're getting I'm getting Dallas Hodge and Bob Hodge. I'm making a huge. You got a huge advocate in Jake Feinberg. We're getting you. There's no way you guys both deserve a place in that Hall of Fame. You were there from the outset, making music, original music, creating bands. And everybody, to any major musician that was around there, would attest to that. So I listen. I'll call you tomorrow. I'll call you tomorrow.
Thanks, Jake.
Much love, dude.
My pleasure.
Later.